Welcome into Cornhusker Connection. I'm Brandon Shanahan, joined as always by Tyler Sprinkle. Oh my gosh, this feels like the morning after Christmas. You get together with the boys, talk about all the toys you got. I mean, this is an amazing feeling. Nebraska 1-0 for the first time since before COVID, which feels insane to think
Criminal.
about it that way. But before we get into all the goodness that happened over the weekend, if you're watching this video, like, subscribe. It costs you nothing. It's amazing for us. It's good for the economy. Great stuff going on. But how you doing, Tyler? How's the weekend?
It was really fun. A little chaotic down in Lincoln, but for all the good reasons. Um, yeah, you talking about toys on Christmas Day. Nebraska got a few new toys, and it was really fun to watch.
In the first, and I mean, hopping on all the new toys they got, I think, obviously the big part of the conversation is Dylan Raiola joining the team, but I don't think enough's being talked about how much upgraded this wide receiver core is. It's basically a whole new room out there.
Yeah, it was. It was cool to see. Well, let's start. I have things I want to talk about in my mind. If I don't do it this way, then I'm going to forget. So
Let's do it.
bear with me. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was our special teams. Holy shit, we can return punts and
Dude,
kicks.
I've never been so juiced at like a 14-yard punt return.
Yeah, it was beautiful. A couple of those started in enemy territory. So love that. Short fields make for quick touchdowns. It was cool to see IGC back there. I was a little sad that he didn't play more wide receiver because I think he's good, but it's tough because you do have Isaiah Nair, Jamal Banks, even I keep calling him Ashford, Carter Nelson. He got out there quite a bit, a lot more than I thought he was going to. Seeing Ja'Cory Barney get involved. I don't. Malachi was out there, but not very much. I don't think he caught any passes. I don't know. So many guys caught passes. I'm getting mixed up on who
Yeah,
caught
there's 108 players
eight.
that saw the
Yeah,
field.
that's crazy.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was fun. All the running backs did well. I feel for Dowdle because that fumble took him out of the game, and he was playing really well before that. So that stunk. But it was a calculated plan by Dowdle to get the safety, something that we haven't gotten since, I don't know, let's just say before COVID, because I don't know the exact date when we last had one. You and I were talking about that yesterday. Yeah, it's just fun watching these guys run around and how awesome it is to see these guys catch these balls because Dylan can throw it perfectly every time. But if you don't have the guys back there to catch it, then it's pointless, right? So it was cool to see that. Fedoni tight end screens are just weird to me. I don't get it. He's not that kind of player, so it was weird to see them do that 3 times. One of them worked a little bit, and the other two didn't. It was fun, just
Mhm.
a blast to watch. I love seeing Dylan up there checking into plays, checking out of plays, checking into plays, finding the right play, having that play work out really well. Um, it was cool. He took a big hit, got up right away. Love to see that. It was great. Offensive line played really well. Defensive line played really well. Um, Corners. If we weren't about to play Colorado next week, I'd be like, it's takes a little bit of game action to get ready or get back into step. But you're not going to have that against Colorado. Those guys can fly around, so that makes me a tiny bit nervous. But I'm hoping maybe it was just one of those things where, oh, this is UTEP. It's not going to be that hard and kind of come out flat-footed. So we'll see with that. But all around, great team win.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And I thought I kind of had the same thing, especially early on, because when Dylan marches right down the field, they score that touchdown. I thought this is great, this is awesome. And then when UTEP gets that touchdown, it's kind of like, oh no, here we go again. This is
Yeah.
exactly what those previous years have looked like. Where even if we come out, the first scripted drive's awesome. Even if we get a stop at first, that's kind of the moment where things start to turn. So, I mean, for that to be not only the last points that they scored throughout the game, but they after that, at least for the rest of the first half, they didn't snap the ball inside the 50-yard line, so they weren't
Yeah.
able to do anything. defensively. But and we'll talk a lot more about Colorado. But I had that same thought. I'm like, boy, that's that's a tough look with
A little concerning. Yeah.
little concerning. But I also, well, one of my big points is I think it's okay to have a couple of those against Colorado because you're going to get toasted by those guys
Yeah.
every now and then. It's just how you respond back, how you do everything else well.
Yeah. And I saw your tweet about the kicking game or the lack thereof. And I was thinking the same thing during the game. I would like to see more field goals attempted just to see what we have. But I think that it was a calculated decision to do all those things by Matt Rule because it's like
Mhm.
you have that mindset. Like, we're going to go out there and we're going to kill this team. Fuck those field goals. We're going to go out there and score touchdowns. And I like that. Did see Alvano kick one. It looked good. I mean, it was shorter than an extra point, I think, but we'll take it just the same. It was cool. It was good to see. The first kickoff by us, though, going out of bounds was tough.
That was tough.
Just straight out of bounds, had no shot. But it was fun. Yeah, I can't. The atmosphere was fantastic. People were loud. People were excited. Like I was telling you, I'd never had such an issue getting into the stadium before. Um, and I guess we were kind of late. I think we tried to start going in around 30 minutes before the game started. Um, but as we were walking around the stadium, people were lined up like 2 hours before the game started. So people were ready. People were juiced up. The buzz is back. As you walk through, people are chanting, people are cheering. Um, it's a beautiful scene in Lincoln on Saturday.
Yeah, and that's the next thing I want to talk about because you frequent Husker games a lot more than I do. I mean, I've been to one in the last like 5 years or so.
Yeah.
So what was this? Was there more buzz yet Saturday than typical?
So that's the thing with Nebraska games is there's always quite a good amount of buzz, and that's just who we are, the fan base. I think you get up for even those little games. Like last year, I went to Louisiana Tech, and I went to Michigan. In both of those games, the atmosphere felt the same. Um, maybe that's because we were expected to beat Louisiana Tech, and we weren't expected to beat Michigan, so the buzz was about the same for both. But
Mm.
there was. And maybe it was just my feelings. Like I was saying it all week. This is the start of the dynasty. I get to watch the start of this dynasty happen in person. And it's wonderful. Maybe it was more so me that felt more energy than normal. But I thought it was just buzzing, electric factory. As Trevor Murphy would say, the buzz was there. It was great.
I love it here. All right. Well, I mean, actually, looking at the football here, of course, Dylan was great. If I had to give him a grade, it would absolutely be an A, just because I got to see everything that I wanted from him and nothing more. I got to see him, flash the deep ball. I got to see him control the offense. I saw him. He had that really cool play where he checked into a run that turned out to be a 35-yard dash. I saw him, and probably the most important thing was the composure. So on the very first drive, it's 2nd and 30. I mean, my gosh, if it's 1st and 15 with the quarterback room last year, I mean,
Yeah.
we're toast. It's over. Forget
Yeah.
about it.
We're running 3 times, maybe picking up 5 yards and punting.
Yeah, it might be better off to just punt on 2nd down than to risk, Heinrich Harburg or Jeff Sims doing something stupid. But 2nd and 30, he kept his composure through like a 20-yard dart down the middle of the field, wide open. And I mean, just the composure, it always, for the first time in forever, it feels like every time he touches the ball, we're going to score.
Yeah, it was. I felt that same way. I would give Dylan an A-. I think there was some throws that he definitely missed, um, and some guys that were wide open that he just didn't see until too late and still try to
Mm.
throw it. Things like that. Against a better team, maybe that becomes an issue. Maybe turnover there, but um, also maybe that's a testament to how good the receivers are as defenders as well. Like they're able to recognize that they're not going to have a good shot at catching this ball. So let's make sure it hits the ground and not ends up in UTEP's hands. I thought his presence in the pocket was pretty solid, albeit the line was really good on Saturday. Only one sack, which I think Dylan should have probably gotten the ball out quicker. Um, but I'd like to see him. I'd like to see him be a little more composed. Isn't the right word. Slow down a little bit, maybe is the right
Yeah.
thing I'm going to say on the bootlegs and stuff. I think he was rushing those a little bit, but all things that are very coachable, very fixable. Um, and I maybe this was something that they said like don't run, like stay in the pocket, throw the ball away, don't run, don't take hits. But I'd like to see him be a little more mobile in the sense of if it's there, take it. There was granted, I think that this ended up being like a 15-yard reception, but there was one on. Oh, it was the cool play where he starts to kind of go up, step up in the pocket, and then he turns to the right and
Oh my gosh,
runs
that
it.
was so sweet.
But he had a wide open hole to pick up the first down, and instead he threw it. I'm kind of nitpicking there. Again, it turned into a great play anyways, so it doesn't really matter. But I'd like to see him just pick up that first down because I think it was like 3rd and 8 or something like that.
Mhm.
Uh, just things. I mean, if you want to be hypercritical, you certainly can about anybody. So those are just things that I'd like to see a little more put together.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. And I mean, a lot of those things that I feel like is easy to expect with them making his first game. Something that'll probably bite him later throughout the
Yeah,
season, but so far so good. I was also very interested to see how the running back rotation would look. Not exactly how I would have pictured it. It was Ramir Johnson who started off the game, then Dante Dowdell who got it was basically RB2 roles. And this was another thing that I appreciated because he looked really good. He was averaging 7 yards a carry, had
yeah,
that 12, had that big touchdown to start it off, and then he fumbles,
yeah.
and then we don't see him again.
Dude, the vibe in the stadium was here, and then it was lower than the floor after that. Everybody around me, we're all just like, "Oh no, not this shit again!" Like here we fucking go. Um, then Ty just comes in and just ruins a play, just absolutely fucking destroys that play. Um, and it was wonderful. It was great to see. I wonder too if the defense was like, "Oh my god, here we go again! Like this bullshit. We got to carry this damn team on our back again." But then we march right back down after the safety and get another touchdown. So take that all day.
Absolutely. I mean, it worked out very well. And I don't know. I'm obviously not in the huddle or on the sidelines with these conversations, but I didn't get that vibe whatsoever from the defense. In fact, one of the notes I had on the defense was that it seemed like they just played at a different speed than I've seen them play at a long
Yeah.
time. Like
Yeah. They
such a
were out there.
high energy. I mean, they were just rolling around.
Yes. They were out there gliding around. Looked like they were having fun, just flying, just doing whatever the hell they wanted to. Um, and I know we're obviously Nebraska fans, we're a Nebraska podcast, but I also want to note that UTEP's a lot better than they were last year.
They are.
I feel like they kind of dumbed down the defense for this game because they were so worried about the defensive line. A lot of quick screens, a lot of quick passes, a lot of counter running, a lot of things to slow down that defense. Um, I'd like to because we saw it from Colorado a little bit in their first game where they were running that kind of offense, and that becomes an issue with their guys because they're so fast and so
Mhm.
just agile that if we don't get out there faster and cover those a little bit better than we did on Sunday or Saturday, I think could be an issue. Um, but we'll see. We'll see.
We'll see. But just to circle back, Dante Dowdell, Matt Rule made it a point of emphasis like, hey, if you turn the football over, you can't play on this team. So I think it was a bummer because he was playing well, and you don't want to ruin his season because he fumbled the ball one time. But I'm pleased to see that those guys are being held accountable for the turnovers since that was such a bugaboo there. But I think he'll be back in the rotation because he did look really good. So I'm really happy with him, and I didn't expect him to come out and be RB2.
Yeah, especially after the game, Rule said that he was running back, the fourth running back, all of camp, and then really turned up. Um,
Hmm.
and again, you saw it in the game; like he played great. Just one thing, and I also love the fact that Buford, like I forget exactly what happened, but Rule was going to go lay into Dowdle or something like that, and Marcus Buford just turned him at Rule and said, "I got it, coach. Like I handled it. I let him know." You love to see that leadership. You love to see the guys holding each other accountable for these things. It's just great. It seems like the culture there, everybody's bought in and everybody's ready to fucking win. They're sick of losing. I love it.
I think it's great. I think this core of, I mean, this is a very experienced team with a roster full of freshmen. I think they have like 80 freshmen on the roster, something obscene. And so not only do you get, this group of leaders who are going to come out and they're going to ball out. These guys are, there's NFL players on this team, but also seeing the way that they're operating. And we got a good look at it with the Chasing 3 docuseries. The way that they're leading this team is not standard across the board, not something that's been in the program for a long time. And so now you get a whole group of freshmen who get to see how it's done and hopefully get to see, what it leads to.
Yeah, and again, it feels different. It feels so
It
much
feels so
different.
different.
Feels better. Um, like you don't see guys walking around after that fumble with their head down. Everybody's jazzed up. Um, it feels different, and it's hard to quantify like what feels different, but you could just tell. Like if you've been around the team for a few years, you can just tell.
Yeah, and I think you hit on it early. I mean, after that fumble, boy, I could just imagine that team just a year ago. I mean, that was a really good defense, but there was kind of this energy like, oh, we get it, we got it, and it seemed like they were playing on their heels a lot, where that wasn't the case at any point last year, even after the fumble, even after that touchdown pass by UTEP.
Yeah,
So there, everywhere, and that's what's so hard as somebody who spends so much time online talking about people who are like, oh, Nebraska, oh, whatever, they're back again, whatever. Like, it's different. You just don't see it yet. I
yeah,
do.
absolutely.
And and one last pet peeve about that: this team is objectively better than it was last year,
Oh,
and that
so much
team
better.
was objectively better than the year before, and that
Yes.
team won more games than the year before. So we're right. Nebraska.
Yeah.
This is going to be the fourth year in a row they win more games. We've been right this entire time. So I just want to throw that
Yes.
out there.
Yeah. Um, and going back to the 108 guys played on Saturday. I
Unbelievable.
love that, and I love the fact that we were able to. And I forget his name, the third quarterback on our roster,
Jalen Gramstead.
Gramstead, him getting in and him just talking about it after the game, like this was a dream come true.
That's
And
so special.
you never see like teams bringing their third string guys unless it's like you're up 75 points or whatever.
Hmm.
It's just so cool that Rule recognizes like this is so important for this kid, and
Yeah.
let's make it happen for him. Like it's so awesome that their hard work is being recognized by getting on the field in the first game.
Yeah, it was awesome. And it's so cool that because it feels like for the first time, like, okay, they took care of business, and now, all right, let's have some fun. Let's get Graham set out there, and he played quite a bit. I mean, Harburg got out there for 3 or 4 series, maybe, but then Gramstad had the whole fourth quarter and then some. So he got to a lot of playing as well. And like we said, all 108 players on the field, and I mean, we got to see Grant Bricks out there. We got to see a ton of Carter Nelson. We got to see, boy, I'm trying to find his name, the German fella.
Oh yeah,
He even got out there. By the way, he's a tank. I mean, I don't know if you saw that picture.
yeah,
He's going to be a
yeah, he's
problem.
huge. Yeah. Got to see a lot of Willis McGahee. Vincent Schaefer's was out there. Um, yeah, it's fun to see all these guys get to play, especially in the first game.
And last note on UTEP before we move on, because we got a loaded slate for us. A good week with Bookie Brook and the boys, a good week on the pick'em. So we'll definitely flex some muscles here. But last thing, I have this goal that at some point. Um, David Hofkin, that's who it was. Defensive
Yeah.
end from Germany, 23-year-old, true freshman. Just your standard stuff. Um, Heinrich Haarberg looked good.
I was gonna say that. Yeah. I'll give him his flowers. He looks so much better of a passer than he did last year. Um, and I told you this yesterday. Elite clap snap, just elite, just deafening in the stadium. Um, he did look good. He looked way better than he did last year again. And a lot of it was just the plays that they were running, a lot of quick screens, a lot of quick throws. I did think that it was very fucking mean of him on that quarterback run. I mean, he had so much room to go around the guy and just literally runs right into him as he's being blocked. That was really rude of him. So probably should be arrested or something for that. But he looked good, I'll say.
And I also got to say, I I feel like both Dylan and Heinrich and even Jalen Graham said to a certain extent, they were really set up to succeed, which I feel like
Yeah.
wasn't easy to do last year with three different quarterbacks with three different skill sets. So I thought that they were all three very well set up for success. So shout out Scott Satterfield and Glenn Thomas and the offensive game plan. That was exactly what it needed to be.
Yeah. There was no other than the tight end screens to
Yeah, that's
Tony.
fair.
Other than that, there were no plays. I was like, what the hell was that for? Like, why did we do that?
I wonder if they're kind of installing that as Carter Nelson gets more up to speed. Get him out there in space.
Yeah. And I think Fedoni's great. That's not his
I
game.
love Fedoni, but yeah,
It's
he's
weird
he's
that
more of a downfield target.
yeah.
Get him in some coverage. Yeah, um, yeah, that's an interesting point. I didn't notice that.
Yeah. 3, 4 plays like that. I was like, what the hell are you doing? But again, other than that, it was a great game plan today. Saturday.
Well, awesome. Well, that's a pretty bow on week one of college football. Any other big takeaways? I know you're pretty occupied on Saturday, but Georgia rolled over Clemson.
No big surprise
Colorado
there.
survives the second best team that ends with Dakota State. So shout out to the Golden Buffaloes. And also,
Oh,
real quick,
I was
go
right.
ahead.
Brooke doesn't know ball. I was right. Oklahoma State shitted on South Dakota State. So
And as much, I mean, I get that it was kind of a standalone game, but the fact that they survived North Dakota State and Oklahoma State blew out South Dakota State isn't getting enough run.
no,
This
it's
This North Dakota State team isn't the team that won all those national championships.
not.
This isn't like I get they have this cachet to them, and they are a tough team. I wouldn't want to play them, but they're not. They're not top of the totem pole anymore.
No, no.
And then you did see the team at the top of the totem pole, and they got torched by Alan Bowman.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's still different. But
Yeah.
what were your thoughts from that Colorado game?
Um, I mean, it's the same thing as last year. I mean, the offense is explosive, looks very fun, looks pretty well put together. Other than the run game and their pass blocking or their offensive line rather is still a little shoddy. At least it seemed in the first game, but their defense is bad. Um, a lot of dumbass plays that they're making out there, like hitting guys late. Thankfully, they were only called, well, maybe thankfully, but they're only called for one of those late hits. Just like dumb decisions on defense. Um, I don't know. It just again, offense, they're scary, very very scary. If they had even a good defense, like they would be winning a lot of games, but they just don't have that right now.
Yeah, it's surprising to me because all I heard this offseason from Colorado Twitter is, oh, this team's going to be different. This team's going to be different, and it's one game, but they look exactly the same. They look like they're built the same exact way, except they added Jimmy Horn, who is a superstar, and that's a problem. That's going to be a problem for everybody they play. But their offensive line didn't look great. Their defensive line gave up, or I guess their defense as a whole gave up 150 plus rushing yards to North Dakota State. Um, it is going to be an interesting matchup with Nebraska because I feel like they're a lot more power to Colorado's speed, especially defensively versus offensively. But and I was asking people before this, like, is it better for Nebraska if Colorado wins or loses? And this kind of feels like the best case in that realm because they win, so they're confident, but they also didn't look that great, and I think they're very vulnerable.
Yeah, Travis Hunter looked incredible. That's not a surprise there.
Yeah, that's a problem.
So going into this Colorado game versus Nebraska, I'm feeling confident but very uncomfortable, if that makes sense.
Very uncomfy. I'm right there with you.
A lot of people watch both of our first games and they're like, Nebraska's going to blow them out, dog walk them. I think there's a possibility of that happening, but I don't see that as like the only outcome.
Yeah, I wouldn't exactly bet on that, but you're right. There's absolutely a universe where it does. But we'll dive into that here. Let me just touch base on rest of week one. Notre Dame heads down to Kyle Field and
Dude,
beats them by
both
double
those
digits.
stink.
You think so?
Oh
Yeah,
man.
yeah, I think so.
Well, that game was just really bad to watch. Um, they just don't. They did not look good at all. Or maybe they both look great. I don't know. But to me,
That's tough.
it seemed like they both kind of stunk.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame will be okay. I like Riley Leonard. He looked really good.
Yeah.
I thought really composed. He looks like a Riley. Kind of mean that derogatorily. Um, but let's see. Outside of that, let's see here. Also, just want to hover over Kansas State here real quick. They blew out UT Martin. No surprise there. Avery Johnson's not as good as I was expecting him to be.
Oh no.
153 yards passing, 60% completion, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception.
But what about his running? Because that's what he's known for.
His running was fine. Let me pull up those stats here. 3 carries for 37 yards.
That's it.
Yeah.
Didn't play very much.
He must not have. Um, he must not have.
Hmm. Or were the other running backs like going crazy?
Yeah. So DJ Giddens is I think his name. He had a real good night. He had DJ Giddens. He averaged 9.5 yards a carry, 124
Oh yeah.
yards on 13 attempts. So he was crazy. But even he didn't play all that much. He only got 13 carries. Um, also shout outs. While we're talking about Colorado, Dylan Edwards, former Colorado legend, averaging 8 yards a carry. So he's not as bad as Colorado fans would tell you about. But, just something to keep an eye on because I'm really high on Kansas State. I thought before Saturday that they were going to win the Big 12. I'm not
Mhm.
so sure. That might be a problem. And again, it might just be their vanilla-ist offense. They're trying to work out some kinks, but um, that might be a problem. Because it's one thing when you have Will Howard on the roster like they did last year, they were able to just run the tar off of Avery Johnson. It's like, okay, well, Will Howard's going to be back. He can go. So then he pops off for 5 touchdowns, and it's like, okay, this is superstar. But now that he's the guy, it's like, well, you got to be able to throw it at least competently.
Yeah, and 60% completion percentage. That's not bad.
Yeah, yeah. Again, this whole week is tough to kind of gauge on what's real, what's not real. But
Yeah.
what wasn't that hard to gauge what was real is Miami and Florida. Miami
Oh,
dog walked them.
I heard.
Um, yeah, Florida is bad. Like people are going to give them a pass because they have a tough schedule, but like they're bad. And I don't even think Miami's all that good, but Florida's bad.
Billy Napier's not going to make it too much longer. Do you think?
I don't think so. I think he'll make it through the season and just see if he can steal a game here or there. But I have not seen anything from him that would indicate that he's going to be the guy to resurrect this program. And I even started to notice that during closer to signing day, there was a lot of high end recruits that flipped out of Florida at the last minute. And I mean, they still ended up with a fine recruiting class, so it didn't make a whole lot of headlines, but there's not a lot of juice in that program.
It's just so sad watching the video of the Miami players walking off and talking to the recruits that were at the game. They're like, "Don't fucking come here."
I didn't see that. That's so funny. I
That's tough.
love that. That's a tough look. Oh my gosh. I mean, can you? Oh boy, it feels so good to not have a poverty blue blood program that like the whole world is pointing and laughing.
Yeah, it's well. I mean, it's still early. Let's
It's
not
still
get
early,
ourselves.
but at least one Saturday we weren't the laughing stock of college football, and
Yes.
that I am very thankful for.
Yeah,
I am very thankful.
it was fun to see other teams get laughed at and not us. But
And speaking of
also, you know
teams,
who else is bad?
who else is
Fucking
bad?
Texas Tech.
Texas Tech. That's a problem. Yeah. And it stinks because the company I work for, they cover Cedar Hill High School, and that's where Joey Maguire was before he jumped into college room. And the way that they talk about him is like, this guy's the best, and he's such a good guy, and he cares so much about his players. So it's tough to like hear that from people who know him personally, and to see him. They should have lost that game against Abilene Christian. They lost against Wyoming last year. I think they even got blown out by Wyoming last year. I don't think it was very. No, it was an overtime. It
Was
was
it?
yeah, it was a weird nighttime game. So I would have given him a pass there. An underwhelming year one as well. Also somehow almost beat Oregon last year. But people forget about that. That was nuts. But yeah, that's a tough look.
Yeah, definitely not something you want to see coming out. You think you schedule a pretty easy game and then show up to the stadium and it's nothing but or anything but easy.
I mean, if I'm looking on the bright side, you get some adversity on the books early. That's always nice to have. They survived it, unlike last year. So I mean, it could work out, but yeah, not very promising for the Joey Maguire era in Texas Tech. For a while, we were all pointing and laughing at Iowa, up 6-0 over Illinois State, before they finally figured out the ferocious Missouri Valley defense in the fourth in the third and fourth quarter. So shout out them.
They have a wide receiver, huh?
Do
Freshman wide
they?
receiver.
Of
Yeah,
course they do. Of course they
he,
do.
I think it was 5 catches, 66 yards, 2 touchdowns, or something like that.
Oh yeah. Oh god, what a Caucasian, Reese Vander Z,
Yeah, yep,
freshman out of Rock Rapids, Iowa.
absolutely.
Disgusting. I'm so tired of Iowa.
Oh,
Uh,
one other thing I wanted to mention is I'm sure you saw Patrick Mahomes quote tweet
yeah,
Dylan Raiola.
I love it.
Um,
Kind of
how amazing for recruiting is that?
unbelievable.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I mean, come
Well,
on, man.
and like I also hear quite a bit of a sentiment that it's just UTEP, slow down, slow the roll. No, no, thank you.
Nope, absolutely not.
There's
We're all
there,
gas.
there's buzz, dude, and I mean, like I'm even seeing like Dylan Raiola getting shouted out on like the ESPN ticker. Like that's different. Like it's you can feel and see certain things. He looked exactly the part, and Patrick Mahomes sees it. I mean, they're workout pals. They share the same coach. I mean, he knows.
Oh yeah.
He knows, and that's the best endorsement in college football. Especially, I mean, after seeing some of the other quarterback play, Connor Wiegman from Texas A&M,
Yep.
um, Graham Mertz at Florida, like Dylan had made passes that they would not attempt. So I mean, it's unbelievable. I was getting kind of sad on Saturday night. I'm like, that means we're one game closer to Dylan going to the NFL.
Oh man. Enjoy it while it's here.
And I got to
Smile
enjoy
till it
the good
happens.
old days. Then the Daniel Kalen era, then the Dayton Raiola era begins.
Mm.
Um,
It just sucks so bad that he's a lefty.
yeah, that's tough.
I
That's
hate
tough to
that.
watch.
I hate that. Ugh.
Ugh. All right. Last thing on week one. Arizona's a problem. I was I was like, okay, well, Noah Fafita is a budding superstar.
Yeah.
Tet McMillan is a superstar. I don't think that a wide receiver and quarterback can carry a team to a conference championship. I might be wrong. They
Yeah.
might be the ones.
What did he end up with receiving yards wise?
He ended up
1,500?
with 10 receptions, 304 yards for 4 touchdowns.
Jeez.
Unbelievable.
Holy shit! If he's not player of the year, or player of the week nationally, that's criminal.
Unbelievable. 30 yards a reception.
Fucking Heisman candidate now.
No kidding.
That's
No
nuts.
kidding. So yeah, they're a problem. I mean, I kind of had them in like that second tier of the Big 12, where like it wouldn't totally shock me if they got to Arlington, but after seeing like Kansas State's, they might be in that tier for sure. I mean, Utah looked outstanding. It's so tough to gauge a lot of these games. Kansas couldn't cover the spread against Lindenwood. I have made note of that.
What
Also,
was it,
Jalen,
like 50 something?
it was 45.5, and they won by 45.
Well,
So that's
I
a problem.
don't forget though that Arizona, that was at one point a very close game.
Was it?
Yes.
Oh, I did not
It was
realize
both
that.
box score. Yeah. Because at one point I was looking and they were only up by
That's right.
7.
That's
And I
right.
turned to
Yeah,
Brooke
they
and
pulled
said,
away late.
if they don't pull away, how do we
Yeah.
feel about Arizona? And then right when I said that, I think it was a pick 6 from
Turned on
Arizona.
the Jets. Yeah, they were up. They were tied after the first quarter, up 3 after the second, and then they outscored them by 2 touchdowns in the third, and then another touchdown in the fourth. And it's also kind of misleading because they got to 61 and they held New Mexico to 39. So those
Yeah.
numbers look a lot more lopsided than usual. But
Mm-hmm.
interesting. It's a good observation. I didn't notice that. They weren't the only team that kind of struggled with their food. Oregon was in a dogfight with Idaho for a
Oh,
while.
man.
Michigan was in a dogfight with Michigan, and then I was watching those two games on the multi-view on YouTube TV. And then at the same exact time, Michigan gets a pick 6 as Fresno State was driving, and Oregon gets another touchdown or another pick 6 or whatever. I'm like, oh, okay, so now I was having so much fun watching both of those games, and now they both suck. So
When I was, I didn't really get to watch every play from that Oregon game, but I was keeping up with it. If you go back and look at like the stats from Dylan Gabriel, you're like, oh, this is a 75-point blowout.
the way that people were tweeting about him, I was in that same boat. I'm like, oh, he's torching him.
Yeah,
And he kind of was, but
he was.
didn't matter. Yeah, 380 yards, 2 touchdowns, 83% completion. I mean, how does that only equate to 24 points?
Yeah. So it wasn't him, that's for sure.
That's for sure. I mean, he looked awesome. I wonder what the running backs look like. That doesn't help. ESPN updated all their stats, so that's not a problem. Michigan stunk, and I kind of expected that. I mean, I didn't expect it from Oregon, but
I was surprised that Orgy didn't start for Michigan.
yeah, that's kind of what I was expecting, and that's what I mean. Admittedly, that's what it is in CFP 25, so that's probably what led me that direction. But yeah, they don't look good.
Yeah, I was watching the game, that Michigan game with Grant, and they kept like dropping the balls, and I just kept screaming, "Nice catch, dipshit!" Grant was getting so pissed.
Got to ask him, like, what does it feel like to have like the best moment of being a Michigan fan in the past? Like, it's never going to get better than that.
No, never.
It's all that. That's what I try to remind Chiefs fans on. I'm like, it's not going to be like this forever, and it's never going to be as good.
I was talking to Brooke about that yesterday, or was it a couple days ago? I looked at him. I said, it was so cool that the Broncos got Peyton Manning. They were so good for 3 years. It's bullshit that you finally get good, and it's a 20-year run and not just 3 years like we had.
No kidding.
Fucker. Because all he ever does is, well, I was a fan before they were good.
And he was.
Dog days. Yeah, he was. But I'm like, it's not the same. It's not the same. It's not the same.
Not the same. But yeah, I mean, his, clock's ticking. Won't be like this forever. And like, and that Peyton Manning was such a unique scenario. So like that will never happen again, probably. But like, it's not crazy to say that the Broncos aren't going to draft a quarterback to be, a top 5 all timer like Patrick Mahomes.
They did.
I mean, you said it, not me. You said it, not me.
I also said to Brooke on Saturday, I turned to him during the game. And I said, it's so fucking fun to root for Patrick Mahomes. And he gave me a weird look. Then he looks at my field. He goes, oh, I get it. How funny would it be, or how cruel would it be for us, actually, if the Chiefs draft Dylan Raiola to replace Patrick Mahomes, and he's just so much better than Patrick Mahomes.
Oh man,
How cool would that be?
that would be worst case scenario. Because the one silver lining that I had is like, okay, well, he's not going to go to the Chiefs, but you just laid out that exact scenario. That I'm like, okay, maybe. And he could be a Raider. That's not out of the realm of possibility.
No, Shadur Sanders is the most Raider quarterback I've ever seen in my life. So.
I need that. I need that. Oh, like I need water.
Don't, because I think he's gonna be pretty good in the NFL.
I'm not so sure about that.
All right, hater.
You got that right.